This is the fourth part of GED practice test for math review. So yes, you can use a calculator on these. A line passes through the points 3, -2, and -2, 4. Write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, as you remember, is that y equals mx plus b, where y is there and x is there. Those two will be in the answer. So we know it'll be y equals, and then whatever our slope is, slope will go right here, and then x, and then plus or minus that y-intercept. So the first thing we have to find is we have to find slope. So to find slope, the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we know this one is x, this one is y, x, and y. This will be 2, 2, 1, and 1. So y2, which is 4, minus y1, which is -2, over x2, which is -2, minus x1, which is 3. So 4 minus a -2 is actually 4 plus 2, which is 6. And -2 minus 3 is -5. So 6 over 5. So that is our slope. And you can leave it 6 over 5 for the sake of this one. Now that we know what the slope is, now we need to find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, we'll take our regular formula and instead of x and y, we'll put in numbers. We want to find what y is, so we put for x, we'll put a 0. Because that is wherever y is, x will be 0, right? Because if you think of the graph, whatever the graph looks like, I hate when it does that. Whatever the graph looks like, the graph, it cuts across right here. Then we know that x has to be 0 because it doesn't go any way across this way. It only goes up and down. So to do that, you're going to have to say 0 for x. So 6/5 times 0 will equal y. So 6/5 times 0 will just be 6/5. So y is going to be 6/5. That's a weird one. Okay, but that's that one. That one's a little strange. Write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. And there it is. Amelia is painting a can for a project. The can has a diameter of 4 inches and a height of 7. About how many square inches of paint will she need? On this one, you got to think of a can. So a can is going to be a cylinder. And we're going to paint the cylinder. So that means its surface area. So surface area is 2, I don't know why it defaults to that, 2 times pi times r squared times pi times, oh, I just went blank. That's plus, sorry, because the 2 times pi times r squared is the top circle and the bottom circle, which you can't really see. And then you have to say pi times the diameter, because that's really your, that would be this distance all the way around this for the body. Pi times diameter times the height. So with that being done, you've got 2 times pi times So if the diameter is 4, the radius is half of that. If from here across to here is a distance of 4, half of that would be 2. That's why this 2 goes right here. But it's 2 squared plus pi times the diameter, which is 4, times the height, which is 7. So now we'll just say 2 pi, or 2 times pi times 2 squared. Well, 2 squared is 4, times 2 more will be 8 pi, plus 4 times 7 is 28 pi. So you could go ahead and do it right here. It's 36 pi. And so 36 times pi is 36 times 3.14. And when you do that, you're going to get A. All right, now we're going to look at this polynomial. So 3xy plus 4x plus negative 5z plus 3z plus a negative 4xy. So what you do is 3xy plus 4x plus negative 5z, or z, as they say in England, plus 3z plus negative 4xy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the ones that need to be combined, the common guys, the ones that, so my yellow ones I need to combine together because they have the same last name, as I like to say. 3 minus 4xy would be 1, negative 1, negative 1xy, or just negative xy. The 4x will just come along for the ride. It's just 4x. And then the 5z, negative 5z, plus 3z will be negative 2z. So if I look at these, and it's in a different order, but still, it has the 4x, there's my 4x, my negative xy, my negative xy, and my negative 2z, my negative 2z. That's A. Typically, they put them in alphabetical order. I know I didn't down here, but it's just the way I combined it. You'll still get the same answer. Davis is considering renting a rectangular storage unit. He found 4 options that fit his needs. Here are the different choices. I really like this question because this question is one of those where you really have to do the work to try to figure out which one is which. Just eyeballing it is not going to get it. Thank goodness each of these is a rectangular box. So each of them is kind of like that. So what you'll really have to do, because they are rectangular, it's going to be length times width times height, or area of the base times the height. Either way, it's the same thing. So like this first one is 8 times 3 times 8. So 8 times 3 times 8 gives us a cubic footage of 192 times 0.65. Times 0.65 is going to be 124.80 for this first one. The next one will be 6 times 4 times 10. So 6 times 4 times 10 is 240 times 50 cents times 0.50. And that one is just 120. So you can go ahead and rule out save room because that one is more expensive than move with us. Room savings is 7 times 5 times 3, which is 105 cubic feet, times 0.60 will be $63. That's a much better deal. So we can rule out that one. So now it's either one of the last two. So you save will be 5 times 6 times 9, 5 times 6 times 9, and then times 55 cents. So it's 270 times 55 will be 148.50. So room savings, which is C, is your answer. Now with this one, you've got polynomials and you're subtracting a polynomial. So the first part stays the same for now. Let's try that again with the 3z. And now, since you're going to subtract these, what you do is you flip the signs of that negative 3w and you flip the sign of the 7z. So negative 3w becomes positive 3w and positive 7z becomes negative 7z. With that, now we're going to combine the things that are alike. So the 3z minus negative 3z and negative 7z is negative 10z. The y stays by itself, so that's 4y. And then the 3w and the 3w makes 6w. So 6w plus 4y minus 10z is C. Which of these points is located on the line 3y plus 9x equals 12? So remember, each of these is an xy coordinate. So what you do is you plug in the first number wherever x is. So like this 9 would go here, and this 3 would go here. So 3 times 3 is 9, 9 plus 9, 9 times 9 is 81. So 9 plus 81 is not going to give you 12. You can rule that one out. So try the next one. 3 times 0, sorry, x and y. Y is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. And x, 9 times 0 is 0. That looks promising. Let me just make sure the other ones aren't it. This is x and this is y. 9 times 4 is 36, and 3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 36 is not 12, and let me check this last one. 9 times negative 3 is negative 27, and 3 times 4 is 12. Nope, that one's not going to work either, so it's definitely B. 37, what is the linear equation represented by the graph at the right? So as we see, the graph itself goes down. That means it is a negative slope. Remember, if the lines go up, it's positive. If the lines go down, it's negative. So we know it's a negative slope. Negative slope. If it's a negative slope, then we can rule out that guy, and we can rule out that guy. So it's either negative 2 over 3 equals times x, or negative 3 over 2 times x. So remember, our slope is rise over run. So we pick out 2 points that we can find. Here's a point right here. That point is at 0, 1. And another point is at, here's one right here, at 3, negative 1. Whoa. So if I go down 1, 2, my rise is negative 2, and then my run, that was a little off, 1, 2, 3. So negative 2/3. Negative 2/3, there's only one that even fits that. Plus, the plus 1 tells you that it crosses at positive 1. Guess what? Guess where it crosses? Positive 1. So that's that one. 38, Melissa has treated her family of 5 to a meal. At the end of the meal, she pays the bill plus 18% tip. If she paid $129.80 for a total bill with tip included, how much was the bill before the tip was added? So the bill with tip is $129.80. Oh man, I hate when it does that. So before tip is going to be less than $129.80. 80. So we can go ahead and rule out E before we even get there. Now we have to figure out which one of these would make sense. So ruling out that E makes things a little easier. Now, think of this. If the meal was a certain amount and the tip was 18% beyond that, so the tip is just a little bit more, then the meal is probably going to be in the $100 to $115 range, somewhere in there. So we know it's either got to be B, C, or D, because there's no way you're buying a $22 meal for 5 people and then adding a tip that of 18% that would get you even close to $129. So the best way I can tell you to do this one is say 99 times 18%, 110 times 18%, and 111 times 18%. See what each of those give you, and then whatever you get, add it back to the original. So I'm going to say 99 times 0.18 will give you 1782, plus the 99 will be 11682. It needs to be 129. So nope, rule out the 99. Let's try the 110. 110 times 0.18 is going to be 1980. 1980. Well, 1980 plus the 110 is going to be 129.80. 129.80. Well, there it is. C. So your answer is C. 39. Here's when we're going to multiply. So when you multiply this trinomial times the monomial. So what you're doing is you're going to say 3 times 2. The x's will combine and the z comes along for the ride. Then you're going to say 6 times 2. And then the y comes along for the ride. And then negative 1, because remember that's a negative 1z. Negative 1 times 2. And then times x times z. All right, so negative 3 times positive 2 will be negative 6 x to the 5th, because there's 4 of them there and 1 here. And then z. So just looking at that before we even go any further, this is a really wise tip. If you know for sure you've done this part right, where you've said negative 3x to the 4th times 2xz. So negative 3 times positive 2 is negative 6. Yep. X to the 4th times x to the 1st will be x to the 5th, and then z. Now I look down here, that one doesn't even have a close. That one's got a negative 6, that one's got a negative 6, that one has a negative 5. You can rule out that one. Now, it's negative 6 x to the 5th z. That one's got that additional y in there that you don't need, so your answer has to be B. And then last one here. Which of these functions is perpendicular? To be perpendicular, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to a slope-intercept form. Then I'm looking for the inverse slope. Does not matter about what's out here. That does not have any bearing whatsoever. You're only looking at slope, but you need the inverse of it. Because to be perpendicular, let's say this one goes this way, and the other one needs to go that way, something like that. Perpendicular has to meet at a 90-degree angle. That one really didn't meet at a 90-degree angle. It also got erased somehow, weirdly, but it needs to meet at a 90-degree angle. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to divide this by 2, this by 2, this by 2. I divide it by 2. And so what I get is I get y equals 4x minus 3 over 2. So I'm looking for something that is the opposite of 4x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide each of these, just looking at dividing this by -2 and -2. So 4 divided by -2, so y would be -2x. Nope. The next one, divided by 2. This one will be divided by 4. And this one will be divided by 4. So here, 2 divided by 2 will just give you y equals 8 over 2, which would be 4x. Guess what? That one is parallel because it has the exact same slope. Next one down, divided by 4, divided by 4. That would be y equals -2x. And in this last one, though, divided by 4, divided by 4. So y equals -1/4 x, or -x over 4. That is the complete inverse of this one. So D is the correct answer, because you got to think of this. If my slope is 4x, it's going to look like this. It's going to look pretty steep, because for every 1 it goes over, it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty steep. The other way around, though, if it's a -1/4, that means it'll go downhill, but for every 1 it goes down, it's going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to look kind of like that. And that's the only one that even looks close to being perpendicular. That's why that's your answer.